I see you over there. Oh, shoot. Apple just dropped that they're going to be adding video. Actually, it's already being rolled out. And I see you over there, podcaster. You are shaking in your boots. You're like, I am an audio only podcaster. Well, let's talk about it. You are leaving a little bit of searchability on the table by not using video over on YouTube. But now, what about this whole Apple thing? Do you need to do it? Do you need to start thinking about how you're recording? I mean, I'm recording right now, just got out of the shower, just listened to the news about what this Apple podcast video is, and I'm talking to you. I wouldn't be doing this live on video because I'm in a towel. So, how can you make this work for you? And what's actually kind of exciting about this is that it's going to push you into using YouTube a little bit more. And I know before you cringe and you're like, I'm a podcaster, not a YouTube host, because you know the difference. Yes, we do want to be over there at least a little bit, because here's the thing, YouTube has better searchability. So if you don't want to be hunting for your audience, it is useful to at least have your RSS feed over there. But now, can your RSS feed have a video? Let's talk about this. Yep, Apple Podcasts. It's doing it. It hasn't given us any upgrades on searchability, but it's like we're going to roll out a new video podcast experience. I am with you. I get it. It's great news and it's crappy news, because what makes podcasting so magical is the audio only, I believe, is that you're walking around, you're walking your dog, you're taking a shower, you're doing the dishes, you're driving your car, you're not watching a video, and my words are getting into your subconscious mind. I think there's something magical about that. But with where the world is going, we want video, right? So how do you make this work? And what do I think I'm going to be doing going forward? Because if I'm going to start adding video to my audio podcast over on Apple, you better bet your booty that I'm also going to be making it in a way that shows up on YouTube. Now, I got to say, you can move your RSS feed over to YouTube. Great. Maybe, just maybe that RSS feed will pull over that video, but it's time to start thinking about this. When the big guys are starting to add video, Spotify already did this. So Apple, of course, finally jumped on board with changing something, because everything else has been so archaic. We got to talk about this. Welcome to Podcast Story Selling. I'm Jen Dragonette. Here, we use your story to lead with connection before strategy, so your podcast doesn't just grow, it converts, and your business actually pays you without hustling harder. And the best part, we get to do it with ease because we focus on the right effort. So you don't have to head over to Apple Podcasters. I am going to read to you and tell you exactly what they're telling us. Video arrives this spring. Well, spring is on its way. A video experience is coming to Apple Podcasts. Deliver video that integrates seamlessly with your existing podcast. Monetize on your terms and use the same tools and workflows you rely on today. You stay in control while giving your audience more ways to engage. Way to go, Apple. I mean, that was a direct quote from Apple Podcasts for Creators. So what they're saying, again, this is another direct quote, seamlessly integrate. A fan can start listening on the go, then instantly switch to video when they get home, right where they left off. Apple Podcasts now supports video delivery on HLS, a new standard for podcasters that enhances the experience without interrupting the features you and your audience rely on. Followers can download and continue to work the same way, and your audience can engage with your show like they always have. Well, Apple, how are they engaging with our show? I know over on Spotify, they can leave comments and things like that. But other than reviews and a written review, how are they engaging? Where are they engaging? So I'm a little confused about that. What they have added, and they say that this is, again, continuing on Apple Podcasts for Creators, make money in your way. Apple Podcasts is an open platform. You control how you monetize. You can choose your hosting providers, your ad partners, your business models. And for the first time, you can dynamically insert video ads, including HostRed, through your hosting partner, delivering targeted campaigns with full creative control. Okay, now this might change the game. I am going to have to research if every hosting platform is going to allow you to dynamically inserting video ads, or if you log into Apple Podcasts. So definitely stick around because I am going to go deep on this. Video Meets Podcast is going to be possibly the way of your future, because if we're going to do video for our podcast, we might as well set up that video that we're recording for our podcast in a way that we can take a piece of it for that to be successful over on YouTube. So yeah, it's saying get ready today. Video is delivered via your podcast hosting provider, just as your audio is today. So you get to maintain control of your distribution through your existing tools and workflows. So it's saying, okay, here we go. We're digging a little deeper. If you currently publish a show on Apple Podcasts with Acast, Art19, Omni Studio, or Simplecast, you can start preparing for video now. So right now, it's getting exciting, but it's very limited how to post directly. So I will dig into how to publish videos from other platforms. They does say that it's expanding their video capabilities, but it's not there yet. So we will look into this. We will go deeper into what platforms you can work, because there's only a few that are listed right now. I know that it's rolling out in spring, so maybe they're testing on those few that are listed, which aren't ones that I've ever used or recommend. But I'm kind of excited about this, kind of nervous about this, because there's something magical about audio only, but I know it's the way of the future. But I just want you to remember that you do not just take your whole podcast episode because you've recorded it in video now and slap that up on YouTube. It will not work. It will actually hurt your channel and it won't grow unless you're really good at keeping up the pace for your episodes, which normally you're not, because a podcast listener is listening in a different way, in a different manner than somebody that's going to YouTube searching for something. So there is a process for that. Created an AI assistant for that through ChatGPT, which I know, old school, right? ChatGPT, we've moved on to all the other things, right? But this works really well. It's working great for my clients. I have a client who is gaining about 3,000 subscribers a month, maintaining 12 to 15 million views. And the comments there's so much of it that he had to have his team also help me, because I was spending so many time with the comments, engaging with people to grow. I have another client who's around 1 million downloads a month, every month, consistently through the Video Meet podcast system, where her podcast is the full episode. We pull out a chunk of that works really well for YouTube. Her YouTube is consistently staying around 1 million views. She's gaining about 500 subscribers a month, and we're on our way to monetizing in different ways. It's really exciting. I'm really excited for where this is going, but I don't want you thinking that you can just pop your full video that you're now going to be uploading to Apple, hopefully through all of our hosts soon, that you're not going to just put that video up there and expect it to work over on YouTube, because that's not going to work. You have to trim it down. YouTube audiences act differently than a podcast audience, hands down. On Apple Video, it's going to be the same, because video is going to be the same as your podcast. They're just adding another layer within their program. It's not the same as a YouTube video. YouTube videos are very strategic. Again, that's why we use the Video Meets Podcast episode, where we do get to record once. We just get real tight for part of it. And then we pull that really tight part out that we put over on YouTube. And again, it's being very successful. If I keep this up, my guess is that my one client that I'm working with, that he's now having his team, it's a really trendy, fun topic. My guess is by the end of 2026, he probably will get a silver play button from YouTube. So 100,000 subscribers. My guess is we're on our way there, because in the last 5 months, we've gained 20,000 followers. So I know this works. Again, some of the clients, if you don't have quite as trendy a topic, it takes a little bit longer, but I've seen this work for him. I've seen it work for coaches. I've seen it work for naturopathic doctors. There's a way to make this work for you. And I'm really excited about where this is going. This is going to be crazy. So remember, this isn't going to be like social media. This is more of those horizontal videos. Think more YouTube. This is a great time to have this conversation about why I built Video Meet Podcast last year, because what you're recording for your podcast is not going to translate well to a YouTube audience. But if we're already going to be putting videos up in Apple, we might as well do this, right? So it's not saying that over on YouTube, you don't go emotional, you don't sell emotionally, you don't share your stories, but you share it in a tighter way. You can blab on blah, blah, blah on a podcast and people are going to pay attention. But if you're on YouTube, they're there to learn something. You need to know the difference between the two audiences. Is a podcaster is more forgiving. They're more allowing you to stumble through things, to talk it out. We're on YouTube. When you've engaged their visual mind also, you have to keep that ball rolling a little bit faster, or you have to be doing something that's entertaining that they're like, oh my goodness, talking to me while bouncing on a trampoline and doing backflips and still having a conversation. You're not doing that. But what I'm saying is that you have to think of them as two different types of listeners, because I think this is where so many people are going wrong and why so many people start YouTube channels and podcasts and they're like, it's not working. My shows aren't showing up. Yeah, because the pacing is different within the episode. This is why when I set up my YouTube Meet podcast, which if you want it, it's only $17. I built it out. It teaches you how to do it. It has your AI assistant where you can actually plug in the script that you're thinking of doing, and it'll teach you how to build this in. So you're only recording once. So your podcast contains both your podcast and that piece for YouTube, but you set it up so that it's one continual recording. And then when you're done with that, you pull a piece of that out through something like the script, Riverside. Heck, you can even do it on iMovie if you don't want to have anything fancy. I'm not telling you to go through and do all the edits and all of those crazy things. There's just one part of it that you're going to want to pull out for what I call a YouTube video, not a YouTube short, not your full podcast. So over on YouTube, it will look like your full podcast will come over through your RSS feed and sit in the podcast section. Number 2, you'll have this big chunk of your episode that is your main YouTube video for the week. And if you want to go down and you want to create shorts for it, you can do that too, but you don't need to do that. But if you can do that all in one recording. So how that would look would be like your hook might go to YouTube and then you tell a story or you do something or you share something that's in a lot of details that your podcast listeners are going to enjoy, but your YouTube listeners are going to scoot on by because it's not fast paced enough for the YouTube algorithm, for the listener on YouTube. Again, it's two separate people. Now, not only are you trying to keep them entertained through their ears, you're keeping them entertained through their eyes, which is not letting them be distracted and do other things. Yeah, they can put it on and listen to it in the background, but that's what your RSS feed is already doing. So if you can build a really solid YouTube video inside your podcast episode, you're only editing it once, maybe twice if you edit your episodes. So you edit down the audio to how you like it. You put that on Apple. You put that full video on Apple also. Then you pull out that one chunk. This is the video meets podcast method. That one chunk that's really in the cadence and the tone and what YouTube viewers are craving. And you pull that video out and you upload that piece to YouTube as your YouTube video. So these I'm seeing as two different things. Apple Podcasts wants that full episode. But I know what you're thinking and I want you to slow your roll for a minute, because if you pull that whole video and throw it over on YouTube, it's not going to perform. It's just not gonna. That's why, yes, move over the RSS feed, put your video in there. Some people will like this, but I think that it's going to lose its value because now you're making it so that people don't get to necessarily do something else while you're talking to them. So what is the big takeaway? A big takeaway is more engagement without rebuilding your workflow. Podfest and what they're saying is the biggest takeaway is more engagement without rebuilding workflow. Apple approach is designed to integrate seamlessly with what you already do, keeping core behaviors like followers, downloads, and working as if they are currently today, while it's adding this richer format option for audiences who are increasingly expecting videos. So if you've been an audio first podcaster, Apple is making video for native upgrade options without forcing you to become a YouTuber overnight. That was a direct quote from an email from Podfest and the Podfest team. So I agree, but I'm also seeing that if we're going to start putting in the effort of showing up and recording in video instead of just audio only, and you're going to make the effort of putting video in your Apple, unless all the hosts are going to start taking the full video, which means, again, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to make a video for your intro or your outro where you're going to have to start skipping them or just saying them every time and then laying music over the top of it. So it is adding a little bit to your workflow. But if you're already going to do that and you're already going to commit to Apple having video, why not set your podcast episodes up so that you can pull a section of that will actually be successful on YouTube? I've tested this out. My clients are getting millions of views each month. If you look at my Instagram, which you can tell that I don't use social media anymore. I love social media for interactions. I'm in the DMs all the time. Occasionally I post reels. Occasionally I post stories, but I don't rely on that anymore. But if you are going to use video for your podcast and you're going to put this video into Apple, I want you to set it up because it's only going to take you an extra maybe 10 minutes to pull out a piece of that podcast episode that is actually set up correctly for YouTube to put it on YouTube and watch it grow. I don't want you thinking just because you record your full episode to throw that full episode up on there. No, go ahead, copy your RSS feed into YouTube and let that happen on its own. But if you actually want to grow your YouTube channel, I highly suggest doing one recording, but making sure that a piece of that recording is set up correctly to be a successful YouTube channel. I've done this a lot. I've had a lot of coaching clients that use this method right now. Is they come in and I'll give you the framework really quick. It's hook, your story, the YouTube segment, your conclusion, and your opt-ins. That's the whole process. You record it once. It's a seamless podcast episode with a YouTube video baked inside of it. And what's cool is that, again, I created a custom GPT for this for my clients, which I'm sharing with you for $17 if you want it. It's in the show notes. It's called Video Meets Podcast. Because if you haven't known, I've been trying to date in my 40s after divorce, and there's this app called Coffee Meets Bagel. And I figured this is perfect. This is a perfect relation because basically YouTube is them having coffee with you. Your podcast is them going and having a meal with you and giving you some quality time, not just stopping by for coffee. So that's why I named it Video Meets Podcast. Because of the season I'm in my life right now, it was funny to me, but it's true. Because your full podcast episode, that big, juicy episode like what you're listening to right now, isn't going to transfer over to video on YouTube as well. Now with Apple, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm still looking into the details. It's a new thing. Obviously, we haven't been able to test it, but I know this is where we're going because if Apple's rolling this out, Spotify already rolled it out. Set up your podcast when you record so you only have to record once. Yes, you edit twice, right? You edit for your podcast episode, you clean up the whole thing, and then you pull out one section of that and you upload it onto YouTube with a thumbnail and the proper titles, which you've already done because you already know SEO to get your podcast moving forward. So it's a great process where you're not having to make all these different recordings. You have to plan a little bit in the beginning, but the thing is, it's if you plan, you can go in and you can make like a high level outline, plug it into this ChatGPT custom GPT that I've created, Video Meets Podcast, and you can pull it out and you know exactly when you're talking to YouTubers and your people on YouTube audience versus you're talking to your podcast people. And that section for YouTube translates really well into the teaching section of your podcast. So your podcast listeners are getting a lot out of it. And you're getting YouTube watchers, is that what they called watchers? YouTube audience out of it because they're actually there paying attention, getting what they've come. Again, two different types of audiences that are needing two different things. So it's important to think about this. But since Apple is coming out with, yes, we're going to have, video added to our platform, we need to, I know you're going to start going over to YouTube too. And before we flood YouTube with random full episodes, let's talk about this. I know that I skipped last week's topic of what I promised you for this week, but with it coming out, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about the video piece. If you're interested, you can also grab an audit, a 30-minute audit with me, podcastcpr.com. We can talk about it. And then you can grab the $17 Video Meets Podcast ChatGPT if that makes sense for you. So let's talk about if video is right for you and your podcast. I know what's going to happen is that everyone's going to start recording in video from now on, and the YouTube is going to get flooded with even more quote unquote podcasts on YouTube. Not in the podcast section, not from the RSS feed, but just because everyone's going to want to move over to video. I suggest that before you upload your full video that you think will perform well on YouTube, you don't do that. You just don't. So if you want, again, here's what I'm offering you. If you're interested in adding video to your podcast and you're going to be one of these early adapters to Apple Podcast video, Spotify already has video features. If you want to be an early adapter to this, but if you're going to record it, you might as well use it for YouTube. Grab a podcast CPR audit. They're free 30 minutes with me, podcastcpr.com. If you're going to start recording and you use Riverside and you grab from the link below for my affiliate, I will make that an hour-long call instead of 30 minutes if you use my affiliate link. Let's talk about how to use this properly, because I really want to get it through your head that you can kind of have a successful YouTube channel by just plopping that video from the podcast over on the channel. But it doesn't really work. It really doesn't. I have spent the last 6 years doing that. It doesn't work. Last year, I implemented Video Meets Podcast, which is this process of putting a video inside of a podcast. So basically, for my clients, before this came up, what we're doing is we're having a longer podcast episode and the video portion is shorter that I'm uploading. There's a process for that. There's a way that I've set that up. There's a custom GPT assistant that helps you set that up. And the cool thing about the assistant is once you do that, you have your transcript and you put your transcript in there. I've taught it how to do SEO. I've taught it how to talk like you. I've taught it how to do all these things. So it also gives you all your copy and your titles and everything else afterwards. So it's like a 4-step process of setting up series, figuring out if you want to just do single episodes, how to use your podcast on YouTube the proper way. It does the whole thing for you. And then you basically give it your idea and it helps you create your episode and the episode flow so that you can pull that really successful YouTube video piece out of your full podcast episode. Again, transferring your whole podcast over there is not going to work. It's just not. So if you want to talk about this process, go to podcastcpr.com. That's a free 30 minutes with me. And we can discuss where to go from there. If you do want to try Riverside right away, because you're not recording in Riverside, you're audio only, and you use my affiliate, I will turn that into a 60-minute call. You just have to DM me on any of the platforms. I am in my DMs, even though my socials don't look like I use them. I'm in my stories. I do post reels on occasion, but I'm in my DMs every day having conversations. I really want this to be successful for you, but if you've been audio first, I can't just have my camera on through all of this right now and expect this to be successful on video on YouTube. For Apple, it's, 1 for 1. You record your video and you're going to get both. But I want you to utilize the other platform too. If you're going to consider leaving audio first and audio only, you might as well be setting up your video so that you can have YouTube also help you find your audience organically because you're using SEO, because you're smart. So I, again, apologize for interrupting what normally comes out, but I think that this is big news and I think it's great news for independent podcasters. However, I think we need to approach this correctly or we're going to have a bunch of really let down Apple Podcast video faders because video is another step. And showing up does add another layer on yourself, right? Because you can't show up like right now, this video can't go on because I got the news while I was listening to my podcast in the shower. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to talk about this. I didn't get dressed. I just put my towel on. I mean, like I'm covered. I'm not in the video right now, but I wouldn't want to turn on a video in this state. So it does take a little bit more effort to want to show up online with video versus audio only. So if you're going to do this, might as well, if you're going to put the effort into doing a video for Apple, let's set up your podcast so that you can take a piece of that, put it on YouTube, and it can help you grow even faster with organic search. But caveat, do not put your full podcast episode on YouTube unless it's through the RSS feed on the audio side, because YouTube rewards how long people stick around. If you have too much fluff in it and you have not really formatted it for YouTube, you're not going to get shown to anyone else because people aren't going to come find it. They might come find it and watch 2 seconds of it and leave. You have to set it up correctly. And let me teach you how to do that through Video Meets Podcast. Before you get all excited, you have a 15-minute action of the week. That's going to be to determine whether this whole video thing is going to be for you and how deep your strategy is going to go and if it's worth the effort. Because here's what Triton Digital said, that only 7% of podcast listeners exclusively watch. 7% are exclusively watching. That's according to the Triton Digital Digest podcast report. So if we're thinking about that, 7%, that's like 93% are more likely to listen than to watch. Is that going to change now that both Spotify and Apple are going to put video inside their own platforms? I don't know. I will keep you posted, but I want you to think about this strategy. Are you going to just start turning on the camera? Are you okay with just turning on the camera? What else is it going to take for you to turn the camera on? Is that you doing your hair, doing makeup, doing something different, changing your background? What is that going to take to actually make this shift into quote unquote video podcasting? First off, you will never hear me say video podcasting because podcast is an audio only format. Are you going to add video to your podcast? Is this something that you want to do? And if you're going to take the step into doing this, are you going to be committed to getting it onto YouTube? Because now you know that just having your podcast over on YouTube isn't going to grow it. Maybe you want to do video meets podcast. Maybe you want to do something else. You could try video meets podcast. It's $17 for the assistance. So if you want video meets podcast, in the show notes, just grab it, video meets podcast, and learn how to properly set up a video. If you're going to go through the effort of how much effort does it take for you to show up on video versus audio, how much effort is that going to take for you to edit it? There's great tools out there, Riverside, Descript, all these different tools you can use to edit that make it easy. But is video where you want to go? Do you think it's worth it for that 7% that are only watching? You can still put your RSS feed over on YouTube. Do I think you need a YouTube strategy to be successful? No. Does YouTube help if you strategically use YouTube as it's supposed to be and not just post a random full interview over there? I do, because YouTube has better searchability, better organic traffic, better while you sleep. You don't have to market as hard, but you do have to do more front end work for YouTube. End of story. So I want you this week in your 15-minute action to determine what it's going to take for you to convert from audio only to video. Meaning, do you have to change your settings? Do you have to change the way you show up? Do you have to change whatever? I want to know how much effort it's going to take and whether it's going to be, I'm just going to record in video and I'm going to put it on Spotify and Apple, or if you're going to use a YouTube strategy. That's your 15-minute action step. Because I don't want you to see the shiny object that could fall off. In 6 months, you put all this effort in, you haven't set it up right, you're not seeing any extra effort, and you're burning yourself out. So I really want you to think about that this week, and that's your 15-minute action step of the week. Now go out and make today amazing, because you are beautiful, you are wonderful, you are worthy, and your story deserves a microphone. I'll see you soon.